for fantasy. Football franchise, talking about that guy. Hoogie, Tyler every week. Heavy analytics, competition real steep. Whoa, that's sweet. Oh, in this belief. Nick so sick, man, bringing ships the whole fleet. Goats, not sheep. Follow every tweet. Don't sleep, always finding sleepers on the street, boy. F3, winning every single league. Money back guaranteed, but it's free. Welcome to the franchise. Welcome to the franchise. Let's go.
All right, we are back on the F3 pod. My name is Sean. You can find me on Twitter at Laney1925. I'm here with my co-host Joey.
You can find me on Twitter at JoeyTheToothIDP.
And Andrew with his awesome new Twitter handle.
Hey, you can find me at BiddyCentFF.
I feel like he forgets it every week
sure.
almost.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
That is your Twitter handle. That is absolutely what it is.
Nailed it.
So we've moved on from the running backs. There's some other guys that we'll probably get back to talking about later, but we are going to start talking some of the 2020 wide receivers, and it is a really good wide receiver class. So today we're going to be doing Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Jalen Raegor, and Henry Ruggs. You guys want to start with the Jeudy Lamb combo?
Yeah, please.
All right. First of all, who did you guys like more?
I liked Lamb more.
What about you, Andrew?
I was pretty even on both of them. I mean, I guess I got to give a slight edge to Lamb, but I think it's mostly because I feel like he dealt with inferior quarterback play, but still looked comparably good doing it. So I think the system, maybe a more favorable system, but his actual quarterback, I was really, one of my big takeaways was I do not like Jalen Hurts as a quarterback.
I don't really blame you there either.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also had CeeDee Lamb above Jeudy. So let's talk CeeDee Lamb first. Dude is an absolute monster after the catch.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't get enough credit for his route running, I think, because he's constantly compared to Jeudy, and Jeudy is obviously the superior route runner, but I think he is good in that department. Very good at the catch point, good size, good frame, good releases. Like, I think he just does everything right. Like, there isn't like one big tragic flaw with him that's going to prevent him from doing literally everything in the NFL that you could ask from him.
Mm-hmm.
What's the history of guys learning to run better routes in the NFL?
So,
if it is a question mark,
you definitely do improve your route running because a lot of it is just not getting coached up.
Mm-hmm.
However, guys that are good route runners coming in tend to have better immediate success because they are less limited. And a lot of it also comes down to who their coach is,
Yeah.
I don't know if it was this or IDP guys that we talked about, Michael Thomas, but his route tree at Ohio State was super, super limited. And then he went to New Orleans and he was good at the routes he ran, but he ran very few routes. And then when he went to New Orleans, some crazy number, 70% of his routes were hitches, slants, and 9 routes. And that's all they used him for. So they're like, okay, these are the things he does well. We're going to have him do those things while he learns to do the other stuff. So you definitely can improve your route running. There are some guys that you tend to not see it as much because part of their failure in route running is being athletically limited,
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of those guys is somebody that we're going to talk about in a little bit here, but in my opinion, I don't know. We'll see what you guys think, but yeah, I think CeeDee Lamb is just a really well-rounded, exceptional talent. I think he's a really, really good wide receiver.
Yeah, I agree. He's got good size, good footwork at the line of scrimmage, beats press. He's good at finding spots in the zone coverage. Good elevation and contested catches. Really good on the fade and back shoulder routes. Let's see. He's got a versatile route tree. I mean, he runs good seams, sweeps, verticals, and he's good at ball tracking.
Yeah. Andrew, did you dislike anything about his game?
No, I mean the only things that I had in my sort of negative column were just a couple of drops that he had, but that happens to everybody, right? So I don't think it was a big issue for him, but there was I had him down for an end zone drop and I'm down for a concentration drop, just where it seemed like he took his eyes off the ball and was ready to turn into his after catch before he actually secured it.
Yeah, and unless a player has like an absurdly high drop rate, I don't typically worry about drops, just because it's such a low percentage of the actual targets for like fantasy purposes that like it really doesn't affect your numbers unless it gets to the point where it's like concerning your quarterback that you're not going to catch it if they throw it to you, and that's definitely not the case with I think any of these guys here. So it's not really, won't even really pop up as a negative for me, or at least not a significant one.
One big thing that I had, I don't know if you guys mentioned this or not, was I mean, in addition to everything else, obviously, I was really impressed with his blocking.
Yeah.
I watched the game against Iowa State, and there's one play where he blocks two guys downfield and springs the back for the touchdown, which was pretty impressive.
Yeah, he loves blocking. Like you watch him and you can tell like he's amped up to just crack that defender. So
yeah,
I didn't see that.
Heinz Ward style.
Yeah, no, big fan of that part. It obviously isn't going to affect his fantasy value, but I don't know. It's definitely an asset to his game. Jeudy. So Jeudy, I think, is far and away the best route runner in this class. I think that he's one of the best route runners I've ever scouted. His ability to just like A, change direction, and B, vary his speeds and just like deceive defenders is just like uncanny. Like I have not seen anything like it. It's absolutely ridiculous. And he is going to create separation at the next level. And if you're going to create separation, you're going to have production at the next level. It's obviously not going to be as dramatic as it was for him in college, but like that is a huge part of his game. He's not the monster after the catch that CeeDee Lamb is, but I think he's good. Like that's definitely another area where he excels. I think that his athleticism is probably a little underrated. We were talking about this before the pod, just because he's playing around so many really good athletes at Alabama that it doesn't just like pop off the screen like it does for some of the other guys. But I think he is a good athlete. Drops definitely an issue for him, more so than CeeDee Lamb. I think I'm not as concerned about the drops as I am just the lack of, I guess, prowess in contested catch situations. That was like my one big negative for him, is it doesn't really seem like he makes a ton of those plays. And part of that is that he doesn't get as many opportunities because he's creating so much separation, but it also, he didn't seem super comfortable in those situations, which is more of a negative to me than just the drops. And I think that for me is what gave CeeDee Lamb the edge. I just think that CeeDee Lamb is better in those situations, and also he's better after the catch, and I love those rack yards. Andrew.
So, full disclosure, this was my first experience evaluating wide receivers in film, and he was the first guy that I watched, and so I really didn't know what I was comparing against. I didn't have a great frame of reference. So some of what I saw might not be in agreement with what you guys saw. You've been doing this a little bit longer. I was expecting what you described, like this unbelievable technician running routes, and I saw it, but I also saw what I perceived to be him being a little bit lazy on some plays, and I get a lot of it was probably his the run plays. So he knows the ball's not coming his way. He'll take a play off. Randy Moss is famous for that, right? And so maybe some of that is me seeing him start to run a route to sell it, and then realizing the ball was coming to him. So just rounding it off. I did see a lot of elusiveness. I did see his ability to create separation. I saw a little bit of willingness to block, not very much ability to block, but a little bit of willingness, and good hands, obviously. What I disagree with you is I actually saw him playing mostly out of the slot, and so I saw him going, across the middle and taking some shots, which I perceive to be toughness. It's not a downfield contested catch, but to me, it's still a contested catch, and so, that is a little bit of a disagreement with what you saw. Going back to the fact that this is my first time evaluating wide receivers, I found it difficult because of how uninvolved he is on compared to the running backs we evaluated, and so I found myself watching other guys. I saw Devontae Smith stand out way more in the games that I watched than Jeudy. So I kind of it skews your perception a little bit, right? And just maybe that was the game that Devontae Smith was more was able to get open because of Judy's the effect that he has in the game, the effect that he has in the defense. And obviously Najee Harris just stood out like incredibly in those games as well. But I found it a little bit challenging, but no, I definitely like Jeudy. Like I said before, I have him kind of hand in hand with Lamb at the top. So
yeah, I agree with a lot of that. So as far as like making catches over the middle and stuff, like, yeah, he definitely has that capability. I just don't think it's a dominant trait for him. I'm not saying he can't make contested catches. It's more just that I don't think that's like a calling card or an elite trait for him. His calling card and elite trait is going to be his ability to create separation. And we were talking about it a little bit before too. Like he does, I think, compare very similarly to Amari Cooper when Amari Cooper was coming out. I think he's a better prospect than Amari Cooper, but very similar types of profiles, I think. But yeah, for me, I'm still taking CeeDee Lamb over Jeudy, and I think that I'm still taking the top running backs over both of them.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's possible that both of them end up being better prospects or better NFL players than any of these running backs. But for me, just like dynasty value wise, like you want those young running backs. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. But we're going to take I guess Joey can talk.
Yeah, thanks. I was waiting for a little bit, but
yeah, we really didn't care what you had to say, but go
yeah,
ahead.
That's fine. One thing that I did notice I think it just comes along with maybe his strength. But in press coverage, if the corner's allowed to if they get their hands on him, it really disrupts his route a bit. But what he does do well is avoid getting the corner's hands on him. Like he's got great footwork at the line to beat the corner.
Yeah, his footwork on his releases is like absolutely.
Yeah.
That's something I definitely should have mentioned. It's like there are so many reps where like the guy's like a foot away from him and they just get nothing but air. It's like I don't even know how he escaped that press. But
yep. And I think people get so deceived about his athleticism because of his ability to change speed and not be at full speed all the time. So I think that kind of perceives people as he's not explosive because he's not full speed all the time. Like a guy like Henry Ruggs, I feel like is almost full speed all the time.
Yeah, I mean he's not Henry Ruggs, but let's get that out of the way right away.
I'll guarantee you when he gets to the combine, he's a 4.4 guy.
Yeah, he's going to be somewhere in the 4.4s. Yeah. Like if he runs in the 4.5s, I'd be shocked.
Right.
I mean, he might not even run, to be honest. Like, I think the ascension of CeeDee Lamb might force both of them to do their combine testing. But like, if CeeDee Lamb were not in this class, I think he'd just probably skip most of his combine testing just because he knows he's got that one spot locked up.
Right.
But is he fast enough? Like you say, is that fast enough to run the full tree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Just because I didn't see a lot of him running deep. There's a couple plays, and I know there was this clip going around about them talking about them flipping a coin to see who gets to run the go route or whatever, right? I don't know if you guys saw that or not,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
I don't think that's actually what happened, but sure.
no. But all I saw was the intermediate depth routes. I didn't see him running deep.
Right. So part of that is who he's on the field with. Like
Right.
you can
Ruggs.
either, yeah, if you can have Henry Ruggs run that route, or you can have Jeudy run that route. On top of that, you're wasting a good amount of his skill set by making him just run in a straight line.
Mhm.
He's so good at the intermediate stuff that it would be remiss to consistently take that away from him, if that makes
Right.
sense. So, but no, he's definitely fast enough, and his ability to vary his speeds is going to be a huge asset for him on 9 routes in the NFL. Because you saw it with DK last year. Well, I guess in his college tape, where people were complaining about his route running, and like, yes, his agility testing was atrocious, but he did a lot of things really well with his deception in terms of his speed on his 9 routes and stuff that like you knew were going to translate to the NFL. And that's similar stuff to what Jeudy can do. Even if Jeudy ran in like the 4.5s, he'd still be easily capable of running those 9 routes just because of his abilities. So, all right, we're going to take a short break and come back and talk T. Higgins and Jalen Raegor. All right, we're back, and we are going to talk T. Higgins, and I know Joey really liked him, so we'll let Joey kick it off here.
I am a fan. I mean, he's below that tier of CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy, but I still feel like he had some really good traits that'll be good in the NFL. He's got good size. He's 6'4". He's got a pretty limited route tree, but what he does run, he runs quite well. Mostly just out and corner routes, but he's great at run blocking. I think he's got really strong hands. He's got a very large catch radius, big wingspan. He beats press coverage really well. I feel like he's got great concentration. I think he can sell his moves with head movement. He does lack movement in his hips, though. He is athletically he's limited, but he has great head movement, kind of in the way like Michael Pittman used to. Gets open, he creates separation with his head movement more or less. And he's exceptional in contested catch situations.
Andrew, you want to help us out on T. Higgins here?
I agree. He did a lot of those things well. I still wasn't a big fan of his. I view him as just a big possession receiver. And I think I've made this comparison before, and I think I get shot down, but regardless, I'll make it again. He reminds me, and this is obviously very limited film experience, a bit of Laquan Treadwell. And I don't know if that's close, but I don't think Laquan Treadwell is a good football player.
No.
I think Treadwell's got worse hands. I think Higgins obviously has better hands, but I don't know. He's just to me he's a big possession receiver. He looks slow. He can create enough separation to use his body at the college level. Is that going to be enough at the NFL level? I'm not that high on him, I guess. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. So something that I've learned from self-scouting over the last couple of years is that I have tended to value receivers that make awesome contested catches far more than the NFL values them. You look at basically the exception last year would have been in Keel Harry. But then you look at Arcega Whiteside not really getting on the field. You look at Kelvin Harmon falling to the 6th round. You look at Simi Cobbs the year before that. The NFL prefers guys that can not be in contested catch situations to guys that can succeed in them, because it's still such a low success rate regardless that, like, it's not super valuable to me anymore. So just kind of going off that, like let's assume that that is still like a major positive for him, because it is like definitely his calling card is his ability to make catches in contested situations. So um his wingspan's ridiculous, and his ability to catch the ball outside his frame and adjust to poor passes is ridiculous, like second to none. Body control, great. So theoretically, I think where those things are most valuable is in the red zone and on deep balls, right?
Mike Williams.
I think he's too limited of an athlete um, to be like a consistent, like not saying he can't be a deep threat, but definitely like his top end speed, I think, is not exceptional. It's like okay. So I don't think that that's going to be a huge positive for him as a deep threat. And I also think that like despite his size, his frame, and where he should project, I don't think he plays as physical as what he should. Like, I don't think he's super physical in his routes or at the catch point. I think that, like, him making those contested catches, he should be able to box people out a lot better, and he should be able to, like, create separation with his physicality, and I don't think that he does. So to me, like, T. Higgins, like, reminds me a lot of N'Keal Harry without the yards after the catch, because that was something that was really good for N'Keal Harry. And I think he's probably a worse athlete than Harry. But that's, I mean, like, we'll wait and see how the combine plays. But yeah, I don't know. Just to me, like, his two roles as a red zone threat and a deep threat are hindered by his lack of physicality and his lack of top end speed. And I think that his route running is probably not going to see as much improvement as some of these other guys, because I don't think he's super fluid or explosive, and I don't think that his breaks are really going to get significantly better. So to me, I just think that there's a lot of red flags in his profile that just kind of are going to lead me to go elsewhere, because he's going to go in the first round of rookie drafts, and I'll just go elsewhere, you know?
Yeah.
Jalen Raegor, what do you guys think? Someone want to start?
I was a big fan.
Big fan. Okay.
I was a big fan.
We'll let you start.
So he was my 30 val, and I kind of likened him a little bit to the first two guys. I felt like he was an incredible athlete. I thought he was, to me, he projected as the most alpha athlete of the three. Also the least refined, right? He's probably the least coached up. He's playing a smaller program, right? Less opportunity to develop. But I thought that in like a terrible situation, he has nobody else to take any attention from the defense. He's got very poor quarterback play. He's still able to produce. So a couple of the positives that I had for him, like the first play I saw was
the interception.
Exactly.
That was the first one I saw too.
And so, but he ran it back, like he ran the guy down from behind after getting knocked down on the play. So the hustle recovery, to me, it ties in a little bit to what we talked about CeeDee Lamb, like the commitment to blocking, like not being a diva, right? Like he's there to play football. He loves football. The punt return ability, right? He's not just and obviously that's not something you want your alpha wide receiver in the NFL doing, but the fact that he has that ability, guys like Antonio Brown started as a punt returner in the NFL, right? It's and Tyreek Hill, right? It shows that they have that athleticism that translates in the open field as a receiver once you have the ball, right? I thought he had really good body control, contorting to make some catches. Again, related to the quarterback play, the ball wasn't necessarily always in the right spot. And good hands again, because he's having to make some difficult catches. You're going to disagree with me here, but I saw toughness. I saw him take some hits and not necessarily breaking tackles, but not backing down from it. I guess like he didn't seem to get rattled. He continued to play hard after hits, and I don't know. Again, I had trouble evaluating the route running quite a bit, just because I don't always know what the route is supposed to look like, and so I saw him getting open, and whether that translated to catches or not, I think somewhat related to the quarterback. There's a couple times where I saw he was open and the quarterback threw a different route than he had run, and you kind of question whether that's him or the quarterback. I kind of lean towards it being the quarterback given the other issues that they encountered. But to me, he just strikes me as an alpha, as a guy that could, I don't want to say develop because I think he's already there, but like could be a dark horse to be an elite player at the next level, just because I think there's more room for growth for him, I guess.
Okay. So for me, like, speed kills. Like, he's super fast, man, and that's going to put him in the conversation for a round 1 wide receiver after he runs his 40. And draft capital is huge. So basically, like, draft capital is probably the most important part for dynasty assets. Like, if you go in the first round, you're going to get an opportunity unless your name is Rashad Penny. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, like, if you go in the first round, you're going to get opportunity. And I think Jalen Raegor definitely has the potential to go there because he is so fast. I think he's ridiculous after the catch. Like, his elusiveness is insane. He's a great athlete, and he knows how to use that to his advantage as a runner. I thought he played with like complete aversion to contact, and I thought he was one of the least physical wide receivers that I've watched in probably the last 5 years. Like, I'd put him probably top 10 in that area of like least physical in the last 5 years. I just, like, to me, the problem there, and I don't think his hands are that great. I think that he made like some circus catches. I don't think he has the strongest hands or the biggest hands, and I also don't think he's super good in contested catch situations, which, like, again, we've talked about this already, is not the biggest deal, but like there are certain aspects of a profile where that is going to apply. And one of those aspects, I think, is the deep ball. So I think he lets the ball into his frame a little too much. Although he has shown the ability to high point the ball, it's mostly on the shorter stuff where he lets it get into his frame. And that's more of an issue for him because he is a smaller target already. So I think that, like, not catching the ball away from your body just like makes that target even smaller. So I think, like, to me, as somebody with his athleticism and skill set, like, he would best project to be either a deep threat or somebody who can make those quick catches and take off with it, right? Like, those are probably where you would project him. But I think his lack of physicality and catching the ball away from his frame and through contact kind of hinders his ability both over the middle and down the field. So those two things kind of are red flags for that type of profile, where you would typically project a player like him. However, like, if he does get that draft capital, I think like, you have to take a shot at him. Whereas someone like T. Higgins, I don't think he's going to get that first round draft capital. I don't think he's going to come close. Like, I would not be surprised to see T. Higgins fall far beyond what anybody's expecting. Similar to what happened to Kelvin Harmon last year. But yeah, I don't know. I guess, like, I didn't love Raegor as a player, but I am very excited about what he brings to the table, where, like, he definitely could be a weapon if he's used properly. But there are things that concern me about how that profile translates, if that makes sense. Like, I don't hate Raegor, but I'm not as big a fan as I think a lot of people are.
Yeah. I mean, I see what you mean with the being contact averse, but I wouldn't say that he lacks physicality. What I saw, like, when in contested catch situations, I thought he had good body control, and I thought he high pointed really well, and I thought he was actually good in those situations. I thought he was physical enough to win those situations, but I do see what you're saying with being contact averse, like running out of bounds far too early, not taking the hit.
So I think there's definitely a difference between, like, making a catch in contested situation and being physical in that situation. Like, there were a good number of plays where you watch as the ball gets thrown down the field, and rather than try and stack and box out the defender, he just kind of gets washed, and he doesn't try and fight that. And I think that's a problem when you're a smaller player already. Like, you have to play bigger than what you are. And I know Andrew thought he did. I didn't see it. So that's just a difference of opinions. But let's say for a second, Andrew, that you did think he was contact averse and lacked physicality. How would that change how much you liked him as a player?
I mean, I think it would take some of the allure away, just because, to me, it was his, I don't, not necessarily physicality, but his physical traits that impressed me the most, right? So, like, his, if you take away some of that physical, his ability to use that physicality by, being averse to contact, it certainly doesn't help. But again, I think it's more of his speed and explosiveness that allowed him to be successful. So I don't think it totally wipes him off my board, but yeah.
You'd be closer to basically in line with me, though, where like you like him, but you see red flags there that you may not be as confident in taking him as what you thought.
Well, just in listening to you talk, I was trying to think of like a comparable, and I don't know that this is a good comparable. Again, I don't know if you guys like my my Treadwell comp before or not, but
I think it was a brutal one, but
it kind of hurt.
Brutal in terms of being wrong, or brutal in terms of being like hurtful to the player.
Hurtful to the player.
Yeah.
He's better than Treadwell, but like definitely the same mold of player in my opinion.
Sure. And so what was making me think of was another player that succeeded on deep speed and taking short catches to the house. Corey Coleman. How do you think he compares to Corey Coleman?
He's better than Corey Coleman. Corey Coleman did not have this rack ability. I think realistically what we're looking at is someone like Will Fuller if Will Fuller were better after the catch. I also think Will Fuller was a little more physical at the catch point, but I think that's the type of player you're looking at, which isn't horrible. It's also not what you want in round one of a rookie draft. But like that said, I do think Raegor's ceiling is higher than what Fuller is right now, if that makes sense.
So you think he's good for 50-point games per year, and then he's going to sit out 6 with a hamstring?
Well, I guess what I'm looking at is that like he's the type of player that you would want to manufacture touches for, to just get him the ball out in space, which could definitely help him. I think his route running is better than what he gets credit for too. But I think that you're not going to be able to throw him like a bunch of quick slants and like drag routes and stuff like that, because I don't think that's where he excels. I think you can throw those, but that's not going to be like his best usage. So to me, just trying to figure out the best way to use him, if you're trying to get him the ball in those short, quick passes, I think that's not his strong suit. And I think that if you're not doing that, it limits you to kind of a boomer bust player in terms of fantasy, because you're counting on those deep balls. And I think he can succeed as a deep threat, obviously, but I think that's a lot less valuable as a dynasty asset than somebody who can go out there and consistently put up 9 receptions a game, which is what I think you're hoping for out of Jalen Raegor, getting those manufactured catches. And I think there's just a couple of red flags that might prevent that.
Sure.
So we're going to take a break and then come back and talk Henry Ruggs. All right, we are back to talk Henry Ruggs, and I've saved him for last because I am a huge, huge, huge Henry Ruggs fan here. So he's going in round 1. That's going to happen. He's just too fast to not go in round 1. And I think unlike guys like Will Fuller and John Ross who have gotten drafted in the first round based on speed in the last couple of years. He does other stuff really well. He's good after the catch, really good hands, tracks the ball incredibly well in the air. Like you can miss him by 10 yards on a deep ball and he will find his way to that ball because he has that kind of speed and he tracks the ball that well. I think he's pretty good on his press releases. His footwork's really good. I think that he lets the ball into his frame a little too often, but he definitely can catch outside his frame. Like that's not a problem for him. He's good after the catch. Like his speed is just ridiculous. Like you get him the ball and he can just destroy your angles. Like it can look like you have three guys on him and he can just destroy all of their angles and take it to the house. I don't think there's anything in the NFL that he's going to be asked to do that he can't do. He can line up in the slot. He can line up outside. He's going to be an impact player from day one. Like the stuff that Terry McLaurin did this year, he should be able to do that immediately. Just because he has that kind of speed and he has that kind of ability to catch outside his frame if he needs to and basically take anything to the house. Similar to, I guess, what Marquise Brown was this year. Just he's going to be a playmaker in the NFL. I would count on it.
I agree. I think he will be too. I wasn't really super impressed with his route running, but I mean, you got to get your hands on him in order to stop it. Because if he gets one step on you, he's gone. He's going to beat you with his speed every single time. You can't stay in front of him. He does have strong hands. He's great at contested catches. He contorts his body excellent in those jump ball situations. I really don't see an area outside of really route running that he lacks. I mean, his strong hands, but I mean, he's just a guy, just get him out in space and let him go.
See, kind of what excites me too is that like he's a decent route runner. He's definitely not super refined there.
Right.
But like the fact that he creates as much separation as he does with just
right.
pure athleticism, imagine what that's going to look like once he gets coached up on his route running. Because like there is no aspect of his profile that is holding him back from improving his route running. And once that gets better, like it's going to be good. It's going to be real good.
And you can't even really press the guy because he's got great footwork at the line. And if he beats you, you're not catching him. You're not going to catch back up. There's no recovery there. No, so you have to play off.
He's a player that's going to get cushion in the NFL, and then he'll be able to take that slant 50 yards for a touchdown. You know, like that's the type of stuff that I see happening in the NFL. And really, like the only concern I would have for him as a dynasty asset is that he gets misused by a team as just like having him run 9 routes every play.
Yeah.
You know, like that's something that he can do, but I want to see him be a player that gets those like 6-7 catches a game and like catches those slants and they use them in the screen game.
I want
to
see just Tyreek Hill style.
Right. I want to see them get him the ball in places other than just on those deep routes. So that would, I mean, really like my only major concern with him as a prospect for dynasty purposes is that he might just get misused. And if that's like the major concern, that's a pretty damn good prospect.
Or if he goes to the Bears.
Yeah. I mean, if he goes, anybody that goes to the Bears, like just their careers.
A-Rob.
You said that the quarterback could miss him by 10 yards and he'd still catch it. So Bears is perfect.
It has to land in bounds.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to throw it more than like 3 yards down the field too. So
I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate.
All right.
I'll be honest. I was really excited to watch his film. He's a player that I'm excited about, that I'd love to see be successful. It's hard for me to say that I wasn't blown away by his film. I just feel like I didn't see enough of him in his film because he plays for Alabama. There's so many other talented guys, and you know when I was watching Jeudy's film, I was waiting for Ruggs to pop, and Devontae Smith kept popping. When I was watching Ruggs' film, I was waiting for Ruggs to pop, and Devontae Smith kept popping, and so I had a little bit of a struggle in terms of getting a good appraisal on him.
You have a boner for Devonta Smith, is what you're saying.
I kind of do too.
I must, man. Like, unless I watched like Devontae Smith's like only 4 good games of the year, then I don't know how else to explain how much better he looked than the other guys. But anyway, it's not about Devontae Smith. Ruggs, I mean, yes, he's incredibly fast. I liked your Marquise Brown comp. I think that's probably fairly apt. So, quick aside, honest question. What do you see him running at the combine? First of all, do you see him running? And if he does, what do you see him running? Is he like a lock for the 4.2s?
I think so.
I think so too. Like, there's no way that he makes it out of the first round of the NFL draft, which is like another huge part of the appeal. Is that like he's a first round wide receiver. He's going to get every opportunity. Like, imagine if he went to the Eagles and they used him as what they used Deshaun Jackson as.
I've heard him mocked there a few times. So, really? Yeah. So, like, yeah, he's got all the tools necessary. I like the Marquise Brown comp. I did not like the Terry McLaurin comp because Terry McLaurin also had elite speed, but he had elite route running as well. So I don't think that Ruggs is there yet.
That's fair. I guess I wasn't comparing them. I was comparing what he can do in terms of production. Like, yeah. I do not think it would be crazy to see Henry Ruggs come in and put up McLaurin numbers next year.
Okay.
Especially like if he did go to the Eagles. I think Carson Wentz, I know a lot of people don't like him. I think he's a good quarterback that just has had nothing for weapons there. I think they could run the offense through him if he went to the Eagles. Like, that would be huge.
So my other sort of contention was I don't think he's going to hold up to the workload of 6 catches per game. And I don't mean just as a rookie. I mean as like a career. Like, he's not. I don't think he's built that way.
That's fair. He is a leaner frame.
Right. Tyreek is not the same animal. He is sturdy for his size. Was he not a running back in college, Tyreek, I believe, or at least a hybrid, right?
He was a hybrid.
Yeah. So like he's built a little bit different than Ruggs. I see Ruggs as much more of a Deshaun Jackson. Like, you're lucky if you're getting 4 catches per game. And certainly it's exciting, but it's a lot less reliable. And that's my concern is I don't see him having the sustainable, consistent numbers that you would look for in your fantasy wide receiver 1. So those would be my reservations. Again, I was really excited to watch him. He's a player I'm excited about. But to me, he's clearly behind Jeudy and Lamb, and I think I got him behind Raegor personally. Although it's pretty close, I think, between those two, and definitely ahead of Higgins.
I think I just saw fire in Sean's eyes when you said that.
Ahead of Raegor, yeah. No, it's for me. It's like Ruggs is what Raegor wants to be. That's it. That's like where we're at. Like Raegor is like, yeah, when I grow up, I want to be Henry Ruggs.
Well, don't pull the rugs out from underneath me.
Oh, Jesus. So yeah, I think for me, it's if I had to rank these guys right now, it would go Lamb, then Jeudy. I think Ruggs is like pretty damn close to Jeudy for me. Like, to be totally honest, like there is a world in which I may flip those at some point. I'm a sucker for good route running though. Like I really am. So Judy's got the edge on Ruggs there. But just like Ruggs' floor, man, like, cause think about it this way. Like, the only way that guys that are that fast do not play in the NFL, like do not actually play in the NFL, is if they just like can't catch the ball at all, like Troy Williamson or some shit like that. And
injury.
Like Henry, yeah, injury too. But like Henry Ruggs is not that, you know? So like he is guaranteed to be a day one starter for a team. Like that's a big deal, you know? Whereas like someone like Raegor, like it's entirely possible that he starts out as like a wide receiver 3 for a team, or even like, sits the first half of the season as a wide receiver 4 before working his way into the lineup. Whereas like Ruggs is going to be a featured part of an NFL team day one. Like I would bank that. So yeah, I don't know. Then after that, it's definitely Raegor over Higgins. Like pretty substantial gap there. But like I have Jeudy, Lamb, and Ruggs above Higgins and Raegor pretty substantially as well.
What do you get, Joey?
Lamb, Jeudy, Ruggs, Raegor, Higgins. I do like Higgins, but I like the guy.
Fair enough. So next week we're going to be talking Laviska Shenault, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, Bryan Edwards, and KJ Hamler. Cool with you guys?
Oh,
sure.
All right.
I just wish you'd let Joey pronounce Ayuk.
I said it perfectly fine earlier. Just so you know.
There's no proof and nobody believes you.
All right, so before we go, I would just like to have a moment of silence because I traded Robbie Anderson this week. Thank you, that is all. I got a 21 second for him.
Yeah, that's a pretty damn good haul for Robbie Anderson. I'm surprised you got that. There's no way in hell I'm giving that up.
I worked it for a couple of months now, pretty much.
You know he's going off next year, though, right? Like, he's going to be like a top 12 wide receiver.
It's going to piss me off.
I can't wait till you go and you trade your 2021 first for Robbie Anderson this time next year.
I already did.
All right, so you can find our written content on dynastyfootballdigest.com and on idpguys.org. You can find me on Twitter at Lanny1925. Andrew is at BiddyCentFF. Joey is at JoeyTheToothIDP. idpguys.org or dynastyfootballdigest.com. You can do a 1-year subscription for $12, I believe. Tools, rankings, offensive, defensive ADP, trade calculator, start sit charts, all that. Best feature of this, I think, is the Slack channel where basically you join our Slack chat and you get to ask us anything about anything related to fantasy football. Yeah, it was a good show, and we'll be back next week to talk some more wide receivers.
Good times.
See ya.